We have two presenters here this afternoon at the 1 o'clock hour that I'm pleased to introduce them. There's the two young adults that are going to share some personal stories about the impact of substance use disorders on themselves, their families, and their communities. First, you're going to hear from Rebecca Robinette of Pulaski County. She's a 2018 graduate of Somerset Christian School. Because of drug use in her family, Rebecca has lived about half her life in foster care. We've shared these numbers today. What was it, 9,800 or 10,000? That's just a number, but that's 10,000 faces, 10,000 people, lives impacted. She's one of those. She is currently a freshman at Somerset Community College and plans to pursue a 4-year degree in accounting. God bless her. You will then hear from Chase Gilbert. Chase is from Jackson County and is a 2018 graduate of Jackson County High School. He is currently a freshman at Eastern Kentucky University and focusing on the criminal justice field, hoping to become a Kentucky State Police trooper and later work with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. This past summer, Chase served as a summer intern with Operation Unite. Both of these courageous and determined young people were active members and leaders in their school Unite clubs. Both have served as youth team leaders for Camp Unite, a free week-long leadership adventure camp for middle school-aged youth from our region. And both are recipients of a 2018 I Am Unite scholarship. I know you'll find their stories compelling, inspiring. So thankful for the courage that's displayed in these two stories. Please join me in welcoming first Rebecca, if you would. Come on up. The soon-to-be accountant, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. So Rebecca will go first, and then Chase will follow her.
Okay. The only way to start a story is with the beginning. My name is Rebecca Robinette. I was born into a family of 6. I grew up with 4 wonderful brothers. I always felt outnumbered, to say the least. They taught me to be strong, not just physically, but also emotionally. This would serve me well for the trials that would arise in the future. My family, it fell apart in the middle of the night. Flashing lights and the sound of sirens startled me from my sleep. The realization hit me. It was the police. Nothing good ever came from the police. I was taught to fear the police. They would take me away if I were bad. That's what I was always taught. That night, I was removed from my home, my parents, and anything I'd ever loved. I was thrown into the foster care system. I also found out that my mom had an addiction to prescription pain pills. I didn't even know my mom was a drug addict until I saw the basket of empty pill bottles laying on the table that night. It was then that I realized we were not the perfect family that I perceived us to be. I felt so alone and so hopeless. Foster care is not always a happy place that children go to be rid of their problems. The first foster home we were placed in, my younger brother was abused. He was slapped in the face on many occasions. He was 5 years old at the time. Our basic needs were also neglected. After our social worker found out about the abuse and all the issues present with this home, we were removed. This time we were placed in separate homes. They stayed in one home while I stayed in another. Once again, I was alone. After one family gave up on us, then the next would too. I was reunited with 3 of my brothers for a short period of time, but only to be split up again. After a couple of years of bouncing around in the system, we were reunited with our parents. They worked very hard to complete all the steps necessary for our reunion. My dad was the driving force behind our return. He helped break the chains of addiction to which my mother was bound. He stayed beside her through all the pain and all the withdrawals. Most importantly, he encouraged her to be the best person possible and to do the right thing in all circumstances. He was the foundation of our family. He was my everything. So our life was perfect? No way, but we were happy and together for the first time in a long time. Then tragedy struck our family again. My father died. My mom had pinned me to the floor with her fist inches from my face, ready to swing. Then my dad walked in. He had never seen the abuse because she always hit me when he was gone or away. Then he threw her off me with a shove. I got off the floor, ran up the stairs as fast as my feet would take me, but not all the way to my room. I had to hear what they were saying. I just had to. There was a lot of yelling, which resulted in him leaving to cool off. That's what he always did when things got heated. But he always came back. As he was about to run out the door, he stopped, looked up the stairs, and saw me standing there frightened. He knew I was there the whole time listening. It's what I always did. I said the most powerful 3 words a person can say. I muttered the words, "I love you," as he slammed the door that night. I did not know that these would be my last words to him. I had no idea he would not be coming back this time. He died from starting up his truck repeatedly in a garage. It was a cold February night, and he was just trying to keep warm. The whole place filled up with carbon monoxide, and he went to sleep, and he never woke up. I tried to be strong for everyone else in the days after his death. That didn't last long. I entered some of my most darkest and most lonely days. I moved to several different school systems, which resulted in bullying. I was bullied at my old school because I no longer had a father, and I was bullied at my new school because I was the new kid. I believed every word that those kids spoke over me, and I never felt so depressed in my entire life. One day, after being subjected to all the harmful words I could take, I just didn't go back. I missed 3 months in my 7th grade year, and I felt so shut off from the world and so paralyzed. I began to tell myself, I am worth nothing. That's how I coped with things. My mom and one of my brothers, however, that's a different story. They both used drugs to cope with the pain. This time I was not sheltered from the drugs. They were done right in front of me. I was surrounded by them. The people we hung out with did them. They were in our home. I could not get away from drugs. They were everywhere. My mom's abuse never ceased either. She hit me when she was high or intoxicated, except this time, my dad was not here to save me. She reminded me of that quite often too. She blamed me for my dad's death. Once something is spoken over you so many times in your life, you start to believe it. One night, after I'd been hit repeatedly, I remember getting on my knees and screaming at God. Started to punch my pillow and just yell all these confusing questions that had been building up. God, if you were such a loving person, why would you take my dad away from me when I was only 12? If I'm really your child, why would you let someone hit me like that? I had all these questions, but absolutely no answers. One of the first thoughts that came to my mind was, my dad will never be able to walk me down the aisle. In that moment, something broke within me. All the anger and all the rage rising up against God washed into this indescribable sadness. Sadness for my mom. Sadness I no longer had a dad. Sadness my family was falling apart. And sadness I was getting taken away from my mom and my brothers again. 4 months after my dad died, I got thrown back into foster care. This time was different. I knew I would not be going home. My mom had no motivation and no courage. She chose her drugs over me, and her dependency stripped her of all rational thinking. All she could think about was getting her next fix. I started to blame God for all her bad decisions. All I knew is that it wasn't my fault, and she was no longer there to blame. Of all places I could have ended up, I was put into a foster home in Somerset, Kentucky. My 8th grade year, I started school at Somerset Christian School. This was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. I stayed with a wonderful family for 6 months, but they were having financial issues and had to relocate and do what was right for their family. They moved to Texas. Luckily, I was able to move to another foster home in Somerset, Kentucky, and still attend my school, SCS. I excelled through high school with many honors. Anything from academics to sports, I did it all to prove a point. I would no longer be viewed as a number in the system, but someone who overcame their situation and made it better. I wanted to prove everyone that ever told me that I would amount to nothing, that they were wrong about me. I graduated with the highest award possible at my Christian school, Christian Witness. I'd never been so shocked and so honored in my entire life. Here I am, a girl who came from absolutely nothing, and by the grace of God made into something. It still fascinates me. My God is so good. Today I'm 18 years of age. I'm enrolled at Somerset Community College, and unlike my high school education, I've decided to complete college for myself. I want to graduate with an impressive GPA and such, but I want to do it for myself. I have no point to prove any longer, so I want to focus on myself and being the young woman God intended me to be. I made a very important decision on my 18th birthday, one that would impact my life in the years to come. I could be let loose into the world and be free to make all the decisions I wanted, or I could remain in foster care under the supervision of my foster parents and get paid to go to college. I chose the latter. I'm still a foster child today, but don't pity me or feel bad. God truly knew what he was doing, as he always does. I have lived with my family for about 5 years now, and they're my forever family. I now have 3 sisters and 2 more brothers, in addition to the 4 biological ones I have. I still maintain decent relationships with all my brothers. I also had the opportunity to talk with my biological mom. She apologized for everything, and I told her I forgave her. She doesn't understand the concept of forgiveness entirely, but I think she's getting it. This is my family. Blood does not necessarily make a family. My family is compiled of people who truly love me and have my best interests at heart. I wouldn't have it any other way. I found all the answers to the questions I screamed at God, by the way. The tragedies in my life have happened for a reason. They happened in order that I would be able to relate to others going through the same or similar situation. I've now had the opportunity to share my testimony with others in my everyday life, along with campers and staff at Operation Unite. I shared my testimony 2 years ago at an Operation Unite camp. I truly felt I had expressed the camp theme that year, a hero of hope. Not only did I give hope to the campers, but in return they gave hope to me. Operation Unite and all that it stands for will always be near and dear to my heart. They support me and love me too. Why else would I be here? They're also my family. When you truly feel like you have hit rock bottom and you're at your lowest point in life, pick yourself up, dust off your feet, and look up. Some say it's easier said than done, but I did it. I was only a child. You can too. I will not sit down and watch the drug issue in my community, district, and state run rampant. I will do my very best to use my voice to make a difference. I will also turn the tide for my future family and break the generational curse of drug dependency that has held my family captive. I've never abused drugs, nor ever will I in the future. The past has not defined me, but the choices I make today will. Thank you for letting me share.
Good afternoon. Statistics show that if you have a parent with an alcohol or drug addiction, you are at a greater risk for developing a drug addiction yourself. Likewise, boys without fathers present in the home are also at a greater risk. Statistically speaking, I am at a high risk for addiction. Fortunately, I found a path leading a different direction. With the support of loved ones and Operation Unite, I have chosen to take a stand and be Unite strong in my decision to break the cycle of addiction. When I was just in elementary school, I thought I had it made. I was playing PlayStation after school, going to church, listening to my dad preach, learning my favorite subjects in school. I was just your typical everyday kid, part of a typical good family in Jackson County, Kentucky. What I didn't know is that drugs was tearing my family apart from the inside out. I was raised by the best parents in the world, and there's no way that you can convince me otherwise. They loved me, had me involved in activities at school, church, and supported me in every activity. They talked to me and played with me. I love my mom dearly, but from the time that I could make my own decisions, I was a daddy's boy through and through. My dad and I were inseparable. Anywhere he went, I would blindly follow. He was an insurance agent in Jackson County and a Baptist preacher, so I thought everyone knew him. He would sit and just talk to people for hours and hours on end. And I just thought he was a local celebrity. But around 5th grade, I began learning that there was a side to my dad that I didn't know. And my world was turned upside down. I still remember the moment my mom sat me down and told me that my dad was abusing drugs. It was after my mom said that I couldn't go on a trip with him to Western Kentucky
in which I was highly confused and upset. Later, when my mom talked to me again, she told me that we had to leave. After that, I started to reflect on his actions. The signs were there, but I didn't notice things. But now they're obvious. Like all the nights, he would come home very, very late and fall asleep on the couch. Mysterious dents and damages that started to appear on my dad's truck, usually on the passenger side. I didn't realize how big of an issue it was when Mom told me that I should never get in the car with my dad behind the wheel. Never. He was my hero, and I could not see the other side. Before my dad was a preacher, he was an alcoholic. As a teen, he was a marijuana user and had experimented with most other drugs that can be ingested without using a needle. He quit around the time that I turned 1 year old, and he was called by God to preach. And for about 8 or 9 years, he was sober and he had a family. He was the picture of health at this time. My granny, who works for a medical clinic, always remembers when he came in to get blood work done in 2009. She was so impressed by his results that she told him, "If you take care of yourself, you should live to be 100. He didn't even come close. Not long after that, he wrecked a dirt bike and fractured his tailbone. He was in pain, but it did not prevent him from doing most things that he wanted to do. He was able to carry on day-to-day activities, even with the pain. A year or so after the accident, he had a friend who referred him to an out-of-area doctor. This doctor had already prescribed her and her husband pain medication. Without knowing the history of his addiction, the doctor prescribed him pain medication. For a while, he was using them as prescribed, but it didn't take long until his history of addiction took root in him once again, and he relapsed. Not due to alcohol, but opioids. His bond with God started to slowly break down. He quit preaching and began living a life that we had never seen. He started partying and drinking again, even though he had a wife and 3 children at home. The addiction of opioids took him and made him into someone I didn't even recognize. It felt like it was just so easy for him to get his pills. The countless runs he made to the southern states seemed like they happened once a month. I truly believe that if it had been harder for him to get his hands on this pain medication, he would still be here today. I felt hopeless, sad, angry, and I tried to hide the pain of watching my hero turn his back on everything he taught me to stand for. I finished 6th grade with all of this weighing heavily on my heart, and that's when Operation Unite found me. My mom filled out an application to let me go to their camp, and what I found there at the University of the Cumberlands changed me forever. The people I had met there became like family to me. Unite taught me that I didn't have to take the same path my dad had gone down, that I could have a life without drug abuse lurking at every corner, ready to get me when I least expected it. They told me that Dad was a good man, but addiction causes people to make bad choices. I learned that I was not only a 6th grade kid that felt like this way, and that I had it in me to make the right choices. Unite was there for me when I had nowhere left to turn. That summer, I had the best week of my life, and I just could not wait to go back the following year. But the following fall after camp, September 29th, 2012, my life took another twist. What was supposed to be a routine visit turned into the worst day of my life. I had gone to my grandfather's house around 11 in the morning for my weekly visit with my dad. He wasn't there. I couldn't reach him on the phone. Couldn't reach his father on the phone. Later, I would learn that my father had last been seen alive at the store across from where he lived. He had gone in early that morning as they were opening the store. He needed some cigarettes and had probably been up all night. My mom had gotten a message from him on the phone late that night before. The woman at the store would tell me that he was asking for biscuits and gravy, but they didn't have time to fix any of that yet. Most likely, he went back across the street and went to sleep. In the 3 years since his blood work had been almost perfect, my dad had abused drugs and alcohol so much that he caused his organs to begin shutting down, likely causing a heart attack. Tragically, rather than living to be 100, he died at the age of 39 in his sleep. When Mom told me that my dad was gone, I remember being devastated and thinking that not only was he gone, but my happiness was gone with him. I wasn't only just thinking about how he would never be there in the past, but he wouldn't ever get to see me do the things that I wanted to do in the future. My whole family was shaken. We all knew death was a possibility, but we didn't think it would happen to him until he was an old man. But even though my life was starting to be consumed in total darkness, another light came into my life. Those people I met at Camp Unite started messaging me and comforting me. They welcomed me into their lives, just some random kid from Jackson County, and now I have just completed my 7th summer at the camp. I went from a camper to a junior team leader to a team leader, and then last summer as an intern with Operation Unite, helping to plan the camp that I love. I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. Camp Unite has become a cornerstone in my life. Without Unite, I don't know where I would be today. Camp was an outlet for me. I could go to camp, I could be myself. Operation Unite does a good job in telling kids that there is a life outside of addiction, that you don't have to go down the road that your dad, mom, brother, sister, uncle have went down, and that there is a better, healthier way to live. And even if you have stumbled and you have found yourself down that road, Unite will help you out. They work so hard to prevent the problem, raising awareness and creating hope. They have done so much for the 5th Congressional District through law enforcement, education, and treatment. And with every action, every word, and every tear, you can see how much of their soul goes into what they do and how passionate they are about their mission. They believe they have a purpose. I know they do. Their faith is evident in what they do. Everyone in Unite believes that if just one person, just one single person, is helped, then it's all worth it. They just don't stop at one. One isn't enough. Unite wants to help everybody. They have reached all across the state to partner with others who feel the same way, like working with the Kentucky State Police to start the Angel Initiative. There are many who thought a statewide call center could never be developed, but that's exactly what Unite did with the KY Help Call Center that has touched so many. They have impacted the whole nation through the National RX Drug Abuse and Heroin Summit, and that they have impacted thousands of kids in southeastern Kentucky with the message of hope. Becca and I know that hope. My dad will always be my hero. His addiction will never take that from me. But I am forever grateful that there are some other heroes through Operation Unite who stepped into my life when my dad was gone. I'm committed to paying it forward. I think that it is what each of us have a responsibility to do, and we must choose to be drug-free. And like the theme of Red Ribbon Week this year, we must travel through the journey of life drug-free and always share the message of hope with everyone we meet, because addiction does not discriminate. Thank you.